A key money issue is front and center in last night's VP debate. What happens to people with pre-existing health conditions if Obamacare were to be dismantled?
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Kronos, providing HR solutions for the modern workforce and the people who support them. Learn more at kronos.com. And by C3.ai. C3.ai software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable business problems. Learn more at C3.ai.
I'm David Brancaccio. Among the flashpoints in last night's vice presidential debate, healthcare, the fate of the Affordable Care Act. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer joins us. Nancy, how did Obamacare come up?
Well, Senator Kamala Harris was asked about abortion, but David, as both candidates did throughout the debate, she decided to talk about something else, healthcare. She mentioned that the Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments next month on the constitutionality of Obamacare, and she said the Trump administration would take away Obamacare's protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you.
What did Vice President Mike Pence have to say about that?
He was asked directly by the moderator, Susan Page, how the Trump administration would protect people with pre-existing conditions if Obamacare were struck down by the Supreme Court.
President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American.
But invited to give details by the moderator, he did not go there.
He did not. But as I said, David, both candidates bobbed and weaved last night. Harris had her own non-answer when she was asked, actually by Pence, if a Biden administration would pack the court, that is, make the Supreme Court bigger so Biden could appoint more justices. Harris didn't answer that, instead saying President Trump should allow whoever wins the November election to choose the Supreme Court justice who will replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Nancy, thank you. The number of people filing for unemployment benefits after fresh layoffs stayed essentially the same in the last week, 840,000, even as the number for the week before was revised slightly higher today. Beyond the new filings, continuing unemployment claims remains at a stubbornly high 11 million. Now to the lived reality of this COVID economy with those numbers just in. Even during pandemic, healthcare jobs have been hit very hard. Here's Marketplace's Andy Euler.
It might seem logical that in a pandemic, demand for healthcare workers would be up. But Ani Turner at the Altarum Institute, a nonprofit that tracks healthcare spending and employment, says some people have been avoiding going to the doctor since March.
It's a combination of less care being provided of certain types.
Things like elective surgeries that often pay the bills, and some people just aren't choosing to have them.
So you need fewer staff and big revenue hits.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics told us last week that the healthcare industry gained more than 100,000 jobs in September, but the sector's still down about 800,000 jobs from this time last year, according to Amitabh Chandra at Harvard. And he says some of those jobs just won't be coming back.
We will figure out as a result of the pandemic, some of those jobs were not necessary.
Specifically, he says, some support and administration positions, especially with more people using telemedicine. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
Dow and NASDAQ futures are up 0.7% each now. And there's news just now that IBM is breaking itself up and will spin off the piece of itself that made it famous, making computers to sell to others. What then is the focus? Well, remote computing services, what they like to call the cloud. The stock is up 10% in pre-market trading.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Omidyar Network, a social change venture that is reimagining how capitalism should work. Learn more about their efforts to recenter our economy around individuals, community, and societal well-being at omidyar.com. And by Fidelity Wealth Management, where advisors work with their clients to develop flexible investment strategies that evolve as their needs change. Fidelity.com/wealth. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are flowing into and out of this year's political races, presidential on down. Most of that money is going toward your typical campaign line items, ads, get out the vote efforts, but a lot is going to lawyers, lots and lots of lawyers. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams has more from Washington.
Political parties, candidates, and outside groups are all spending on pre-election day legal fights, and for good reason.
There is enormous stakes about the future of the country and who would be president, who would be in the Senate and the Senate have the Senate majority.
Carl Tobias teaches constitutional law at the University of Richmond.
And especially to be sure in the states that are the battlegrounds.
The Republican National Committee is spending at least $20 million for election-related legal challenges nationwide.
We're involved in 40 different litigations as we speak. It's quite a big challenge.
Liz Harrington is the spokesperson for the RNC. Most of those cases are about absentee or mail-in voting.
That ballots aren't received and counted days and weeks after Election Day, making sure that ballot harvesting bans remain in place.
The GOP has won some cases, but the Democrats have won some as well. Lucinda Gwynn is executive director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
We are in more than 24 lawsuits in House battleground states across the country. With a real highlight on Texas, we're in as many as 5 lawsuits in Texas alone.
Along with the National Party and Senate fundraisers, Democrats are spending $10 million just on litigation.
So spending over $10 million inside of one election cycle is unprecedented.
Also unprecedented, just how much litigation there is. But the same could have been said in 2016 and 2012, says Adav Nodi, chief of staff at the Campaign Legal Center, a nonpartisan group focused on expanding voter access.
It's gone up basically exponentially each cycle. So 2020 presidential election is unprecedented, but it's a continuation of this 20-year trend since 2000.
Which was the year of Bush versus Gore, litigation that went all the way to the Supreme Court and determined the outcome of a presidential election. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
And with those weak unemployment numbers there, people signing up for jobless benefits in the last week, interest rates are down slightly. The 10-year Treasury yield, the key benchmark, is down slightly at 0.77% now. Trust me, a lot will happen between now and later today on our beat. Listen for my colleague Kai Risdahl, host of Marketplace on many public radio stations and marketplace.org. We're the Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.